Well, welcome to another episode of the Residential Developer Podcast. I'm your host. My name's Nathan Battishall, and I want to share with you today around a topic talking about doing developments with other partners, or what we like to call them in this industry is doing joint ventures with other people. Now, this is opening up a huge can of worms. I reckon we could do an entire year's worth of episodes on this exact topic alone, and you'll find in 2026, we're going to be talking a lot about different types of joint ventures and some of the pros and the cons, because I just think this is an exciting space to work within. It's not a space for everyone, but it is a space where I think you can do well, and you can create profitable projects and developments when you partner up, or where you get a couple of like-minded people and be able to partner up and do developments and do projects. So this is going to be just like a little overview type episode. It's probably going to open up a whole can of worms. It's probably going to open up thousands of questions that people will have, and it'll also open up opportunities for next year and for the new year to be able to bring in exciting guests and different people that have done JVs or have done equity partnerships and different things to do developments and to do projects. So, I always say, like, what if you could do a bigger or a more profitable development that you could not have otherwise done on your own by partnering up with some other people? I think the exciting thing about partnerships is that it enables you to pull the strings on a development that you may not have otherwise been able to do. And I think the exciting thing about this episode, it's also an opportunity for some of our listeners. And I know we get some young guys in the industry who are passionate about projects and developments that don't have the capital or the equity to be able to fully pull the trigger on a project themselves yet. And this is an episode you can sink your teeth into. I think it's an episode for everyone, because I think someone who isn't able to sink their teeth into their own project yet, you can get value out of this, but also guys who've maybe done some projects or have some capital but have a bit of a desire or a hunger to maybe be a part of something maybe a little bit more profitable or a little bit bigger, or even people that are on the edge just considering it or thinking about it. Maybe this is an episode you can delve into as well. And I guess for me in this episode, this isn't going to be a full educational episode. I guess what I like in this episode too, it's sort of like an unlocking episode where it can unlock some questions. It can unlock some thoughts, and it can also unlock some possibilities that you may not have actually considered or thought about when it comes to doing a project or doing a development. So for me, it's I've got this saying, and whether you like it or not, I like it, so I'm going to share it. Like, I've got this saying I've always said, like, I'd rather a percentage of something than a percentage of nothing. And I think a lot of people, and I have mentioned a similar thing before, like I know a lot of people that never pulled the trigger on doing a project, never ever. And they're always looking for the, profit margins that don't exist, or they're looking for projects that are out of their league or out of their current point, or they look at the barriers or the hurdles that stand between them and doing a project, and because they can't currently pull the trigger on a project themselves, so they hold back and they do nothing. And some of these people procrastinate for years and years on end, some for decades, and then do nothing, and they're frustrated and disappointed, and they're living in a state of regret. So for me, I always say, like, I'd rather a percentage of something than a percentage of nothing. And I think the advantage of joint ventures, equity partnerships, and developing partners when it comes to doing projects is it gives you the opportunity to get a percentage of something. And I think this is an exciting topic because it'll unlock some possibilities for some people who might have spent the last 6 months frustrated that you can't pull the trigger on something. Even some of the young staff at my work, in my business, I love every now and then where we get these opportunities at lunchtime and different things to spark a little seed or an opportunity to plant some vision in their own lives about ways they can, build equity through property and generate some wealth through projects and developments. And, for me, there's exciting opportunities out there when it comes to partnerships. So for me, the opportunity of partnerships is the ability to pool resources. So if you look at a partnership, like when you're looking to partner up with someone, you can often you can pool resources. So for some people maybe have a whole bunch of cash. Other people may have some equity, and some people bring skill equity, to the equation. Like a prime example of a partnership that often works well is you may see someone like a builder, for example. There's a young builder I've done a bit of work with, and he's in that place where he can't do a development on his own at the moment, but one of the skills, he's got skill equity. So one of the skill equities he brings to the project is he's got his builder's license and he's a great young builder. Now, he doesn't have capital. He doesn't have cash and he doesn't have capital to be able to pull the trigger on a project. So he's been able to partner up with someone who they don't have the skill equity, but they've got the ability, they've got the capital and some equity. So they've been able to work on a great little partnership, a little joint venture, where one person brings some skill equity, one brings capital. They've been able to really go on that journey of discovering how this looks, how this works, to be able to pull the trigger on projects and developments. And, the advantage for the person with the capital is they've got a trusted builder they can work with. They've got real raw numbers in front of them. There's not that fear of the cost overruns and all the various different things. But also for the builder, there's the ability to, for him to be able to partake in not just getting a builder's margin, but to be able to potentially get some development margin out of this project and go down that route. And the advantage for the builder is that, again, he's no longer doing client-based work. He's able to do his own development project-based work. And I've probably seen a epidemic of builders wanting to do less client work due to the headaches and the frustrations and the hassles that can come with doing people's dream homes or renovations and different things, rather than having a project of where it's a lot less emotionally investment into it, where they're purely looking at it from a numbers point of view, making sure it stacks up and being able to work in and through that space. And I think, first question to look at is, or the first point to really push into is, why equity partnerships do work. Because I think a lot of people, the fear of not doing partnerships and joint ventures and equity partnerships is because they look at all the reasons why it won't work. And it's important to look at those things and to study the reasons why it doesn't work. And next year, what we'll look to do is we'll do an episode that breaks down some of the biggest areas where these things don't work. But for the point of today's episode, I just want to look at a couple of thoughts of why these type of equity partnerships do work. And I think one of the biggest things at first is the leverage. It enables you to when you bring a couple of partners in, you develop a leverage to be able to do what you weren't able to do on your own and pull it together to be able to do something that is now possible and manageable and you can do it in that space. So when you're leveraging skills, you're leveraging equity, you're leveraging cash. There's so much you can leverage in partnerships that you couldn't do on your own. So it's understanding, partnering up with the right people and having that mindset of, okay, how can we leverage this to be able to do a project that either might be bigger or more profitable. Sometimes it's not even about doing a bigger project. Sometimes it's more a project that's more profitable. For example, you get the right duplex project, it can be more profitable than 10 townhouses. I've seen it before, like where you just get it in the right area. Yes, it might be a higher investment, but in terms of the size of the development, the size of the project, sometimes the smaller projects are often a lot better. It's just that they're highly profitable, but sometimes you're putting a similar amount of capital into these ones. It might be like a really high spec'd up duplex, but it's one that you generally couldn't achieve on your own. But you can if you pull some resource together. So leverage is a big thing, and I think Another key advantage, or why equity partnerships work is because it spreads the risk and the workload. That's the beauty when you're doing these type of projects. You're able to spread the risk. Now, some projects it just might be a 2-person partnership, could be a 3. I did one that was 3, only a bit over a year ago, and it's just a really nice thing because you're spreading the risk, and there's really very minimal risk then if you run the numbers right and you're looking at it. Yes, there's often less profit at the end, but again, like I say, I'd rather a percentage of something than a percentage of nothing, and it's a project I would not have otherwise been able to do if I was on my own. So for me, I like the idea of being able to do some projects where you're partnering up with people and you can spread that resourcing. For me, I bring a high level of resource in terms of my knowledge, my background, my planning background, my design background, obviously my understanding of projects and developments, but I'm not a builder. So for me, like being able to partner up with people like, for example, like a builder, it's advantageous. Being able to partner up with someone who's got a high level of capital or the ability to tap into some equity, but for them, often they might be people that are not as highly educated around the property space. So for them, there's a huge advantage for them to partner up with someone like myself who's quite knowledgeable in this space and, high understanding of projects and developments, and both from a planning and a building and a construction project management, the whole background point of view. So for them, their risk and their reason for not stepping out, they may have the capital to be able to pull the trigger, but they don't have the ability to risk profile it. And so for them, there's that comfort of knowing that, hey, I've got someone who's a bit more skilled up in that space. And it's about pooling the resources together and, yes, spreading the risk, but also pooling the workload. So when you get the right partners, it's amazing that you can really drive through the workload of it then. So, it's pointless 3 town planners partnering up generally, unless one of them has a strong project management background, the other one might be a strong equity partner. But I just find that some of the best partnerships are where you're bringing diverse backgrounds of people together. So, you might have someone who's a high wealth individual, you might have someone who's got a construction background or is a builder, you might have someone with a strong planning or design or background. Like I find they're the best ones or someone with a strong finance background is a prime one. Like I've done a project with someone with a very strong finance, or I've got 2 projects with someone with strong finance backgrounds, and it enables you to be able to, they bring that skill set to the table. And when you pull that resource, it's quite an exciting thing because, especially when you're taking on bigger projects, you've got those skills at the table that you bring, so you can mitigate risk, you can share the workload, so there's lower levels of stress, but there's high levels of competency then in being able to, I guess, pull the trigger on that project. And I think another one is, is just the ability to access the different strengths, because all of us bring different strengths. Like some people, a project I did with a partner, he had an incredible ability with numbers and FISO and and he had a really strong risk profile. So for him, it was de-risking the entire thing. And for me, it was the knowledge of the industry, the ability to go out and execute and put the plan of attack in place where I could basically, piece together the approval from acquisition all the way through to the end product. And then, we all bring different strengths to the table. Some people handle stress better than others. Some people handle confrontation better than others. So the person who, some people are better communicators. So all of a sudden, if you've got someone who's a strong communicator, they might have a lot more of a hands-on role with consultants and with the different partners that you're engaging in your dream team. If someone is a little bit better behind the scenes, someone might be more analytical, someone might be terrific at just building good camaraderie and good culture, and someone could be very organised. So if they're very organised, well, you can tap into their strength of being able to keep good up-to-date communication and spreadsheets and Gantt charts and, timelines and all that sort of thing. So it's just tapping into everyone's strengths, and it's making sure that when you are doing that, you are utilising the strengths that people have. And I think the next thing is choosing the right partners, because I think that's critical and key. And I think that's one thing that scares off a lot of people into doing partnerships. There's all different sorts of partnerships with family, with professionals and friends, all sorts of things. So, unfortunately, we've all heard the stories where, deals that have gone wrong where family members are no longer talking, or best friends get driven apart due to, things going south. And I think if you put in place a lot of the things we talk about on these episodes around, feasibility and getting the right site, de-risking, having exit strategies, all that sort of thing, obviously you can overcome that. But I think, and again, these are not these are just a few points I've got. And again, feel free to, you'll get your own ideas and your own thoughts, and you'll be able to brainstorm your own checklist or your own element of what you're looking for in joint ventures or partnerships or equity partnerships. But for me, one big critical thing for me is character over capital. You could go and partner up with people with so much capital, but if their character is poor, often you're going to find you're going to get headaches, and you're going to get issues in your project. Like for me, always look for character first. Obviously, if you've got a lack of capital, well, the reality is to pull the trigger on a project, you need to bring in someone with capital. But make sure you're looking at their character. Look at the character of that person. Have a look at what's their history like. What do they like to deal with? Are they honest? Is their word their bond? Are they, when they say something, do they back it up with action? What are they like? Are they honest to deal with? How do they treat people? It's important to be able to look at character, but not only that, what type of partner do you want to be to the partners that you're partaking with? What's your character like? Are you someone who can be trusted? Are you someone who can be honest? Are you someone who will treat people well? Are you someone who wants to do the right thing by the partners that you deal with? Are you someone who wants to go for the long haul with different people and be known as someone who is trustworthy and someone who is honest and someone who can be relied upon? And I think that's why for me, it's just a personal thing for me that it's character over capital. I'll always look at someone's character before I look at the capital. I've had opportunities to partner up with people. I just had a bad gut feel because of my skills, because of what I bring to the table, because of my knowledge. I'm not naive to the fact that I'm an attractive joint venture partner to a lot of people, and I get opportunities often to partner up, especially with people that have got the capital but don't have the knowledge. And I'm more often than not saying no to it because I don't trust the character of that person, or I don't know them well enough to know what their character is like. And that's why for me, you've got to be, obviously, for me, it's a high priority. And I think it should be a high priority for anyone wanting to go into a partnership. You need to look at people's character, but you need to also be someone who has a strong character yourself, because you will let people down and you will destroy relationships and you will destroy opportunities if you don't have a strong, healthy character of being someone who's integrous and honest, and someone who treats people right and treats people well, and someone who is honest in your dealings of how you go about things. So I think that's important. I think another key thing is just having a shared vision for goals and timelines. That's important. You need to be on the same page. You need to have shared goals. If one of you wants to move on, get the capital and dump it into the next project, one partner wants to do that, the other one wants to cash out. Well, you've got different goals, so you need to align with people with a similar vision of where you want to go and what you want to do from this. If it's to just do the development, sell it all, cash out, and then you're done, that's fine. You don't have to have the same goal of what to do with the cash. One partner want to bust a mortgage open, bust their home mortgage. So the idea is to partner up, do a development, cash out of it, smash the mortgage, and then live a little bit more free. That's fine. The other person might want to then pump that into the next development. It's important to, to have shared goals and timelines. And timelines is another critical one too, because, if a project's going to take, especially a bigger project, it might be a big land subdivision, or it could be something that's going to take a little bit more time. Like if one partner thinks it's a 2-year project, but it's naturally 4, the other 2 partners understand that it's 4. Like you can run into problems then where someone had an unrealistic expectation of when they could that project would wrap up, and then you can run into hurdles and problems and issues. And if someone needs to get out earlier, or they put themselves under so much financial pressure that they can't push through that next couple of years, you can run into issues there, and that's where that can be the difference between partnering and not partnering with someone, is where there's a misalignment of goals and timelines. And I think, complementary skills, I think, is key in choosing the right partners too, because I think, like I said before, don't just partner up with the same of everything. Like, it's important to have complementary skills that will enable a successful project. That's where, if you've got key strengths, that's where, if you're a builder, you're a prime candidate to partner up with someone with some high wealth, or that type of thing, because you could get 2 builders partner up, and although that does work at times, it can work, it's probably not a complementary skill. Like for me, if you're a builder, like partner up with someone who, it might be a broker or someone with a finance company. It could be, someone with a planning background, or someone with plenty of equity. So look for the right partners so that you can complement each other and complement what you're doing and where you're going. Another critical thing when choosing the right equity partners is also choosing people that have a similar risk tolerance or an appreciation for the different risk tolerance, because it can really cause heartache and difficulty if someone wants to take outrageous risks that can really damage a project, and then you've got 2 other partners that are, risk adverse. Or can go the other way around, where someone could be so risk adverse that you just destroy and kill the development because you're not able to move forward. And that's where you've got to really thrash that out and determine, your risk profile and your understanding of how to deal with risk. There's always going to be risk in development, but you can make good, strong, calculated risk based on data and knowledge and all the different things we've talked about around feasibility. And but you need to have some alignment there in that, I believe, in that space around risk. And I think it's important to have, I think when choosing the right partner, I think it's important to have some of those exit strategy conversations first before you partake in the project, of understanding, because let's face it, like a smart developer or a smart investor also has smart strategies in place should you need to exit. For me, I had a couple of partners, and we had a land subdivision good number of years ago, and for us the idea was we wanted to pull the trigger on the development. We were getting some capital investment to be able to do the land subdivision, but early in the piece we said, look, we need to be open as a group if a good opportunity came along and it's best for the group. There needs to be an openness to possibly look to sell the site within a DA approval, which is often the case in land subdivisions. And like for us, it was a key thing to get the partners involved and on board, and understanding that, look, sometimes deals come up, and there needs to be that ability to pivot or to shift or to go down that route. So in this case, we had an opportunity to flick that site, and everyone was on board with it, because we understood that, hey, it's sometimes deals come along and it's best not to go down the risk, to go down the route of developing it. Sometimes you can get a good opportunity to flick it before even developing, where you can make some good returns without very minimal input of both time, equity, cash, the whole deal. So I think that's critical too, is having the exit discussions of, should you want to exit from a profitability point of view, but also should you need to exit due to having to get out of it to avoid catastrophe or avoid losses and things like that. There are ways sometimes of having where you may need to sell a site just to before you avoid losses and things like that, where you get out of it with either very minimal loss or ideally no loss, ideally a bit of profit, but sometimes you just have to cut your losses and get out and have not costed you anything, but you've avoided a headache of going ahead with the development, possibly to lose a lot. So I think that's key. It's critical. It's good to have those conversations. It's good to have alignment in that. And for me, lastly, for time's sake, I think communication is so critical when you're doing joint ventures, partnerships, equity partnerships, partnering up with other people, whether it be family, friends, people you don't, builders, or you name it. I think communication is key. It's important to have good communication with these people, and there needs to be clear communication. That's both before you go ahead and also very critically during the process and the project as well. There has to be that good, clear communication. And I think, you don't want to be partnering up with people that are flaky, that are aloof, people that are poor communicators, because the problem is you're going to have those really difficult times where you don't know where things are at. You don't know where they stand. If they're not good at communicating where they're at, you can run into a whole bunch of hurdles and headaches. And the good thing is you can see that early on with people. If they're good with communication, if they're clear, they're concise, what you see is what you get. I think that's critical. That's key. And I think having someone that's good at providing regular reporting, where things are at, where things are up to, that's where having someone that is quite organised is terrific. That's where I find often, that's where accountants often do quite well, or financial advisors, people from a finance background can quite often do quite well because they're naturally quite organised in their day-to-day. They're quite often on top of things, or project managers can be handy as well because they've got a background in that space. So they're good at reporting, they're good at keeping a track of the numbers, they're good at really keeping an idea, the critical timelines, factoring in contingencies, keeping on top of FISOs, all that sort of thing can be super critical and super key. And they also understand the importance of bringing in the stakeholders and keeping everyone informed where things are at, where things are up to. I think it's critical. And I think also, for me, transparency builds trust. When there's communication, when you've got regular communication, it builds transparency, and the byproduct of transparency is trust. If you want high trust, you need high levels of transparency, and to get high levels of transparency, you need high levels of communication. So for me, what makes a powerful joint venture, what makes a powerful partnership is trust, where the partners trust each other so much to the point that it's able to move smoothly, that that you've got one another's best interests at heart. And I think, look, there's always going to be things that may go wrong in certain partnerships, but I think if you really have that, like I said, if you're looking at the right, partnering up with people of high character, I think that's key. But I think just having great transparency, where if you've got a nagging issue, or if you've got a nagging concern, you're able to be transparent about it and deal with it, nip it in the bud, and then you build high trust because there's nothing left unsaid. There's, things are out in the open. You're able to deal with it. You're able to progress through it, and you're able to move forward. So, and I think it's important to really have your exit strategy in mind, like I said before. That's a critical one, I think, that can really make or break these projects, is because by having the exit strategy conversation before you even join up with people, whether it be, there's companies out there promoting joint ventures opportunities now, or you could be trying to attract a couple of joint venture partners. You might have a site, but you can't pull the trigger on it. or someone might be asking you to be part of it, or you might be a builder who's getting invited into that type of project. But you've got to look at, okay, what's the end goal? What's the exit strategy on that particular project? Like, is the exit strategy to sell them all, and then you all pull profit out? That's a very common one where you're doing that project as a one-off. The idea is you sell everything and you each pull a percentage of the profit out based on what you've agreed upon. It might be equal shares, or it could be someone getting more of an equity partner might be getting a return on the capital they've invested, as well as pulling out a share of the end development profit. Or it could be a builder pulling out an equal share because they've withstood maybe some builder's margin, or however. There's hundreds and thousands of ways you can do developments and projects, and equity shares and splits and profit splits and the whole deal in and around that. But I think it's you've got to look at it. Is it a sell it all, split the profit? Sometimes the strategy is to keep a product each. That's another good one, and that's the dream for most people, is to be able to keep stock and keep property. Sometimes, like you see some of the land subdivisions where they might keep a couple of blocks of land each, sell the rest, clear the debt, and the idea is to keep a block maybe and build a house on it, or however that works, and take as minimal cash out from a tax purpose as possible. And then you've got these other partnerships which are exciting as well. And there's a lot of these type of projects now where a lot of people, what they're doing is they're pooling the end profit into moving into the next project. So they're going from project to project to project with the long-term vision that you can unencumber some sites and you can keep some stock and that sort of thing. So it's getting a good idea what is the exit strategy, because you could be completely misaligned with the other two people, and if there's that misalignment, it's probably not going to work. So determine what the exit strategy is, what the end goal is, and you partner up with people who are like-minded in that space and in that place. So, look, I hope this episode's been helpful. I know it's just probably a light overview, and it's probably just opened up the surface of greater conversations I want to have into the new year. But I hope it's been beneficial. I hope it's unearthed or unlocked some possibilities for people, whether you've not done a project yet or whether you want to go to greater heights and partner up in some exciting, profitable projects that you wouldn't have otherwise been able to partake in. So as usual, like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you next week.